I have a big loader bucket in here. Need some repairs. I've already turned it up on its side so that way I can get this in the flat position. You got a large crack here, so I'm going to bevel that out, weld it, probably plate the other side. Got another crack up there. Huge crack right down the middle. And then on the underside, the wear plates are pretty much worn to nothing, and some of them are missing, like there's not one here. A part of this underbelly plate is missing, and those wear bars are pretty much gone too. So that'll be getting cut out and replaced with all new equipment as soon as the customer gets them in. So in the meantime, I'm gonna start repairing the cracks on the interior. The new part came in and the customer delivered it. So I wanted to be sure I had the new part in before I cut out the underbelly, just so that way I didn't, cut it too much or not enough. So took the measurement and then came over here and scored the line, from the top, the bucket down. And so cut everything out. This was a lot more labor intensive than I thought. It took me a whole day just to cut that out. I used the plasma cutter with the gouge function, cut everything out as good as I could, and tore it out, panel by panel. So all 7 panels came out individually, and then I spent a few more hours just with the grinder cleaning everything up. So everything is ground down and ready to be fit. But before I do all of that, the inside crack, that if you remember, it runs from right there all the way down. So I need to clean out the inside of there so that way I can weld that crack. I've already cleaned out the inside of the crack, but as I did, I got down and discovered, all of the dirt that was packed in there. You can't weld to that, or it's, obviously gonna break again. So I had to get the bottom off before I could do that. So now I'm gonna go in and clean the back side of that crack and then get that welded. And then I did discover another crack here and another crack there. And then on the inside of the bucket where the crack, I cleaned that out and really gouged into that. So I'll put a little plate back here so that way I can weld that from the inside. The outside cracks I did get taken care of. That was the big one. And then on this side, there was the other crack. So those came together pretty nice, but now we're really gonna get into the biggest part of the repair, which was this underside and putting in the new wear plate. Okay, the cracks and the underside have been welded. So I did a triple pass under there, and there's the plate that I put over that open hole. That'll be my backer plate. That crack is fixed, so now I need to tip it up and lay that bottom plate down and get it going. Okay, the plate is up. I got a little trick to show you here. So obviously the bottom of this thing is not perfectly flat anymore because it's been in service being used for I don't know how many years, enough. So anyway, there were gaps here. So in order to suck this plate down, to tighten up the gaps, I just welded in studs and then tighten the nuts up all the way down to suck that plate in, so that way it's nice and tight against here, and it also pulls my plate tight for this gap, so when I weld it, it'll be nice and tight, not sloppy. Now obviously this is going to be an issue here. However, a lot of this, about 1 inch I think I measured, sorry you can see it, about 1 inch of that is just wear. So I'll probably do the same, pull it down a bit, but then just put another plate up here to make up for the worn part, to close that off so that way crap isn't getting in there in the future. The underside welding is complete. So now I need to flip it over so I can get the welds on these undersides. So what I did is end up just putting in a 1/2 inch piece of 2-inch flat and a 1/4 inch by 2-inch strap there to close up those gaps because it was wore down so much. And so I welded it all the way down. Put a few more pieces on top of this just to help with that wear. Straightened a few out. And the same on this side, 1/2 inch by 2-inch flat here, 1/4 inch by 2 here. So flip it over, weld these, and then the inside crack that is in the bucket right down here. Okay, the bucket is finally finished. Completed the welds on those straps on the bottom. Other side. And the last part was to weld that huge crack. I kind of forgot to video this, but as you remember, I welded the 3 passes on the underside. So what I had to do was go back through and clean out that huge bevel that I had. Because the weld ran through, and that's called, back gouging. So that way you re-clean that surface, but now you're re-welding to the really clean portion on the inside. So I think that took 5 passes to weld that crack completely up. So now that is a continuous joint. It is welded completely through. So the cracking likelihood is not there because it's a complete piece of steel now, not just a weld over the top of the crack, which would definitely not work, and that's not how you'd want to do it anyway. So this job is done. Definitely a time-consuming repair. It took approximately 24 hours, 10 minutes to complete. Now, that's not strictly welding time. That's, moving the thing around, getting it into position, cutting material. And when you have heavy stuff, it just takes time to move it around because, well, I don't know how much this thing weighs, but it weighs enough. You can't move it by hand, so it's more time consuming. So until the next job, we'll see you around.